visible?
Yes, ma'am, it is visible.
Is it in a slide mode? Is it in a slide mode or a PPT or a PowerPoint application you are saying?
Normal application.
Okay. I'll share it. Is it visible in a slide mode now?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh. Okay. We will start the class. I think yet to join. I could see some more people. Okay. But we'll just begin with our whatever we just try to recap what we have done and we'll just start with it. Okay. Am I audible now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Good morning, students. So I am Ramya from ENC department. I hope you know all. And today I will be starting with our next concept of our C++. Okay. So already we have seen some concept like this is data types or operators, which is your revision for your what do you say C kind of expression statement and flow control. It is basically our if all the for loops and all that. These are two basically from your C concept. And that is being added with your basic class and object concept, and Vijay sir has well taught you how to create a class, how to create object of that, and he also introduced you with the functions in a C++. In the case of C, we used to just write it is a functional, it is mainly on your procedural language. We don't have a class in the C. So in a case of C++, we have an object or something. So all the functions I can make it as a member of this class and try to call using an object of that, okay, member functions. And we also seen a pass by value. The function can be retrieved or invoked by passing the value or pass by reference, where sir has given you a lot of example by passing the pointers or its address or something, so many things. And he also discussed with inline functions. Am I right? So you can define a function either in the case of in a normal scope resolution or kind of inline functions. And he also dealt with what is the best and when to use and all that. And he also put a thought about the static functions, a static variable as well as a static functions also, and a constant functions. And he is put a highlight on the function overloading. What is this function overloading? I'm trying to write a same function name. The name of the function is same, but I can put a different signature to that. Signature in the sense either I can put a different parameters or the type variable or objects data types can be a different. So the whatever you are, when you call an object with that particular function, it will see the data types and how it is being called, and it will go to that particular signature and it will do the work. So if you see the function overloading, you're trying to give a same name but with the different functionalities. Okay, so that is the function overloading. We'll come across with one more term called overriding when we go for the next higher classes. Okay, we'll see that in a different concept. Okay, so I hope this all are completed. I hope you understood well in this. Any doubt you can always ask us. Okay, so with this background, I'll just try to go ahead. Do you have any doubts in this? Yes, can you confirm? Okay, you can put you can unmute yourself. Is it okay? Shall we begin with our new concept that is like nothing but a constructor and so many other concepts? Okay, so this is important visualization. You require to know that. So sir has just dealt with, as we told, it's a private data and public data only we dealt. We have one more kind of protected. We will do it in the next when it is required. Okay, so at present you already mentioned whenever I create a class, it is nothing but a container for me. So I can have a privilege to declare a data which is in a private. Even the function can be private, so it is accessible only to that object and its all the information. Okay, but we can create another concept or another container where the access can be given, and it is known as a public data or public function. So you require to write either the keyword public for this and then define all these information. So remember, this is the visualization which is required for you. So we call this as data hiding or data encapsulation or kind of. So this is the what important difference what you can see compared to the your C concept. Okay, so C++ you can have a different container within a container, one class. I can declare a private information or the public information. We have one more category also. So how I can have a control over that what can be accessed by whom and when. Okay, with different privileges I can give, and I can make it data hiding also. Okay, remember this picture. Okay, this is very important for us. So we have just went with the object creation. So class is nothing but just a declaration. You are writing a just the information there. It is like a blueprint. It is, there is no house actually built. Okay, active mode. So it is just the blueprint of that. So once you create an object, you are creating an instance of that class. Okay, so you can access any class information or functions only using a object and its dot kind of. We are using that dot object dot whatever the functions or a data. So these are nothing but a, you have a, this is nothing but you're creating your own user data type. Okay, that is how you are trying to represent. So usually we write this, this is already well known to you. We write a class name and its object, any A B C you can go for. So I'll just go for a simple which we already dealt. I just for the example, because this is the one example which I'll be using for the next concept. So this is one simple example. Is it visible to you, the screen? Yes. Hope it is visible. Can you confirm that, student?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I created one class. This is employee. Okay, there are some members which is name, age, and a department something, and you have two functions which is public where you are trying to get the information and put the info. Very simple concept of a class. Okay, so remember I have three data and two functions, and this is where I'm trying to get the information and print it. And this is the, remember this is a scope. Okay, you're trying to say this belongs to the class and this is a function name for that. Okay, in both of them I've not passed any parameter here. So this is return type is also void. It's a simple kind of any function definition where employee information can be represented or displayed. Okay, so this is how you can create a class, and this is how you can create an object of that. So this is a class name and followed by your variable representation. This variable, the way you define the variable, it is all same thing for your data type. Okay, any your primary data like integer, or how you declare those integer, real, variable. Similarly we are following the same rule for this. Or as soon as the class is represented, you can, after the closing of this bracket, the curly bracket, you can define the object also. Both means this is a to any method you can use. Either in a class, in your main method you can declare the class and then the its variables or its objects, or after as soon as the completion of your curly bracket of your class definition, you can write these two. So this becomes the object of the employee. These are the two way you can declare any your, what do you say, kind of. Okay, now let us go back. This is accessing a class member. Okay, this is already you have done. I don't go in depth of that. This is object dot you are trying to represent. So what exactly how the already sir has defined you? It is given. He has given a information. So when we create three objects, say employee 1, 2, 3, I have a different set of memory allocation for these data types. Okay, so it is individually for each objects, but the function representation or memory allocated for your function, it is same. Okay, so each your data type can access this memory location by calling the object employee 3 dot whatever the function. Okay, so one copy of this has been represented, but as you create an object, you will be having a different memory allocation for the data type, but you will be having only a single representation for the function. Okay, remember this kind of view. This is very important for the your class representation, how the memory is allocated for us. Okay, I hope it is clear for you. Okay, so with this we'll start with our new concept. So today I'll be dealing with your constructors or how other more C++ concept. So before we go for that, I will thought of going with a simple 5 minutes talk on the your brain programming. The name I chose for this is similar to your C++ programming. So can we use the same concept of your C++? Is there any relation? Can we have a correlation with this? Or is it possible to use a brain programming, or is it possible? Okay, just a few minutes thought for this. Okay. So first and foremost is, can we program our brain? Is it possible? The scientific research shows yes, we can program our brain. Okay, similar to your the way you see it is a C++, you're programming for getting particular function done. Similarly, we can reprogram or program our brain. But how we can program? In your C++, you have instances, correct? You have an instruction set. You can program it. But how a brain can be programmed? So it is very simple. The instruction is nothing but in the form of thought. Okay, so any programming, brain programming can be start with your thought process. Okay, thought is the basic instruction mode for your brain programming. And it is very what do you say, it is dominant for that. So when I say thoughts, because it's a multiple, so anytime anyone, you will be having a set of many more thought process. Okay, you will be just going on. Okay, it will be so many thoughts are arising in your brain. So this set of thought can activate brain cell. It is also made a research on that. It can be well existing theory on that. So each thought process is capable of activating particular brain cell, and it can motivate or it demotivate the information. So it is it is very important to know that the beginning of your thought can invoke or it can energize a particular brain cell. Now, what is this thought process? When I say thought process, it's a collection of thought. Okay, so collection of thought will leads to a particular action. It is also well-known established theory for that. So when you try to make any action, you have a set of thought process already put into that. So can we relate a conscious work? So I put as a function here just to relate with your C++ function and a habit. So conscious work is where you're putting a conscious thought process for this, and habits are when you are trying to put it as a subconscious way. So can we relate this conscious and a function and a habits, okay, with your C++? Yes, you can see that a conscious effort or a function is nothing but you have a set of instructions and you're trying to make an effort to put them into action. Okay, so you're trying to tell, say for example, I'll take an example of a car driving. Okay, so if you take any car, if I want to put a brake or something, you have telling your human body, you're telling your leg to put particular whatever what should be done at the putting a brake or something. So this particular a thought process has become, now once you become an expert in driving, this becomes autonomous. Okay, you are, whenever you are seeing any passenger, any this one, you can put a brake without, though you are talking on a mobile or any kind of, but still you can activate, it becomes autonomous. So it is nothing but you can think of habits become autonomous for this. But can I relate this to C++? Similar to your inline function. So when I make a more effort or may try to make a collectively redo the same thing, it becomes a your subconscious work, or I can say inline. It becomes more process. So it is easy to go into that particular autonomous functions, and it can execute it without the conscious effort. Okay, so you can think of, we can relate our C++ programming or our brain programming. So it is also as well established that you can change your thought, and so you can, if you want to really want to change yourself, you have to change your thought process. That is what you require to understand. And so why this, so with that concept, so when I know I can change myself, then we can start with thinking positively. What do you mean by why? What is this positivity? Positivity is nothing but you're trying to take a good in whatever it happens. Why? Because once you, as we seen that when we think positively, it can activate particular brain cell, and this brain cell will release a particular enzyme which is good for our health as well as our inspiration. So thinking positively creates a positive mindset, and it can bring a different characteristic, and it can make you better. So with this note, so you can think of every day may not be good, but there is a something good in every day. So with this thought process, we'll start our C++ concept. Okay, I hope it is interesting for you. Now let us start with the constructor and a destructor. So this I'll be referring, you have many books on this object-oriented programming, but for this concept, I thought of using this complete reference or any kind of Robert Loeffler book. It's a good written, and you can have many examples in this. Okay, now let us start with our constructor. Okay, so we are going to deal with these concept constructors, and what you mean by parameterized constructor and overloading of that, and we have a default arguments, we'll see that, and a destructors, and how I can use this dynamically operation, and we have one more concept of copy constructor. Okay, and many more on that. Now, a constructor can be used as initialized member variables. So you previously I showed you example of an employee. You created a class of employee and object of employee 1 and employee 2 or something like that. But it is how the constructor is different from that. We'll see that. Okay. A constructor is a member function. Remember, it is a function, member function, and usually it is public. Okay, and it is automatically called. You need not call a particular this. I'll show you how to call also. So it is automatically called when an object of the class is declared. Okay, the constructor name, this is very important. Constructor name must be the name of the class. Okay, if you declared a, say for example, employee in the previous this one, your constructor name also should be a employee. Same, it is a case sensitive too. Okay, so the member, how they are different, it is also a member function, but in a member function I have a freedom to choose any name, but in the case of constructor I don't have that freedom. I have to use the same class name. It is a must. Okay, so and a constructor cannot return a value because it is creating an object. Okay, so it can't return any value for you. Okay, so even a void also you are not supposed to declare like that. Okay, so this is the syntax of that. So if you declared a class, this is a class name, and you are defining, remember the same, you should have a same signature here, the same, it is a case sensitive also, it should be same. Okay, and it can't return anything here. Okay, so it is returning, remember it is belongs to the class name. This is a class whatever you define, and it is also signature, the name of that. Okay, remember, give attention to this. It is same as the class. Okay, and in this case I have not passed any parameter, but we'll see it in a different concept. So you can have a many more work function in this kind of. Okay, it is a function basically, but the name should be same as a class. That is what you require to know. Now let us take one program on this. So I have created a counter. This is a class counter, and you declared a variable count. Okay, and what is this? You observe this. The class name is, this function name is same as the your class name. So it is a constructor for you. In this constructor, the moment I call the counter class, I am initializing this particular count, the integer, whichever data type I have, I'm trying to initialize to 0. Okay, resetting to 0. Say for example, I have two more functions, which is incrementing a count, where I'm incrementing simple, and there is a get count, which returns the count. And remember, there is no a return type. Okay, so this is a constructor for you, where you are calling, you are initializing this particular variable. Okay, and you have two more functions in this. So what happens here? You are creating a void main. Okay, this is in your main function. You are creating an object here, counter C1 and C2. The moment you call this C1 and C2, this particular constructor is called, and the count, the C1 and C2 will be having a data variable which is initialized to 0. Okay, so C1 count also is 0 and C2 count also is initialized to 0. Okay, so what happens when I print this? When I print this, when I execute these two statement cout, the output will be printing as 0 and 0, because it is initialized to 0 by the constructor. Okay, now understand. Now in this case, C1 is incremented to 1. Okay, so I have incremented this count. How about this one? C2 is also we are trying to increment. But see this instruction, I am incrementing this C2 again. So what happens to this? Can you tell me what will be the output of these two? Anyone? What will be the count of C1 and what is the count of C2? Anyone?
Ma'am, C1 will be 1 and C2 will be 2.
Yes, because you have invoked the C2 twice. Okay, the incrementing count is you have called twice, so the count will be incremented twice. But whereas C1 object you incremented only once. So this is how I can create an object and I can initialize. This is basically for initializing your information. That is what the count, this particular constructor is doing. I hope it is clear with this. Okay, now let us go for the next information. So we call this, we have seen the previous constructor where I have not passed any values, just I am initializing a data there. Okay, but I can use a observe now class. Okay, this is a class name, and I call the another same class. Okay, the member or whatever I use the same name here, and I pass two values. Okay, so I can define what type of values also. So in this case, I'm calling the constructor. Why it is a constructor? Because it is the same as the class name, and I can initialize or I can take two values as a parameters to this. Okay, and I can do any manipulation to that. Okay, so in this case, this is called as parameterized constructor. Okay, previous one was not a parameterized, it is a here because we are passing some parameters to this. Now, can you identify why this is may not, why we have written this may not work? Can you, anyone, can you tell me why it is not? Yes? Anyone? Can you identify the error in this line? Anyone? Can you unmute yourself? Why this line will not work? Why this line will not work?
We've not allocated memory. We have to write it as integer n1 is equal to new integer.
No. You observe that it's a case sensitivity here. Okay. So this case, you should not use, you should be writing a same number, same way, okay? It's a case sensitive. So in this case, it is a, you require to use a same name here, and even as you mentioned, you require to use a two parameter, because you are calling, you have only one integer constructor which has a two parameters. So you require to create a object like this. You have to pass the constructor with this kind of way. So you can call in two ways. One is this, calling this. New will come when I'll tell you when we have to use a new here. So in this case, explicit call we call. So where we are creating an object of integer, and we have to pass these two parameter, because when you invoke this, it is coming, it is matching with this particular sign signature of that. Okay, so you have to pass two of them, two parameters, and then the object is created, n2 is created. Another way of doing invoking is nothing but you can create, you have to write the class name and the object name, and again pass two parameters to this. Okay, because it is matching with its way of signature, how you write in your class actually. Okay, so this is how you have to write a constructor with a parameterized way. Now let us take one examples on this. So what is done here? You have created an integer, okay, and same concept. I'm trying to write at one integer constructor, and this is a public function, okay, displaying. So it is displaying that. Now in this case, how I created in two ways. Now one is with the just using a integer, I'm not use a equal sign. Okay, so I created object by passing two values, and in this case I pass with the equal to, and then calling a same class name with two parameters. Okay, in both the ways I can initialize my object here. Okay, this is a two way of method to invoke your constructor, when especially for a but this is not the case when we have seen an employee, because I have created, or other previous example, because there was no parameterized constructor was there. Okay, so when you create a parameterized, you require to send that many data also. Okay, so now let us take another concept. So we have a multiple constructors. Okay, we have seen a function with multiple way of writing. We call this function overloading. Can we have a constructor, many constructor? So this kind of concept is known as a constructor overloading. So I can have a constructor which can be overloaded. Overloaded means I can have a many representation or signature. They should be differing in each of them, and we can send by different parameter list. How it is identified? It is by the different parameter list. Okay, now let us take an example on this. I'll take a same integer. I have two datas to be initialized in this, m and n. So this is called as a constructor. We don't have any parameter. So if you don't send any values, it is initialized. It is going to call this particular signature. Okay. So whenever you're creating an object, just integer n1 or something like that, then this kind of constructor is going to call. Okay. And when I have one more, when I send two values, then this particular signature, this particular parameter, or this particular information is going to execute it. Now, again, this is another concept where I can pass an integer with an integer, its own class variable kind of object type. So this is similar to the copy constructor. We'll see more when we go for a copy constructor. But this is also possible. Why? Because it is a int is your primary data type, but integer, whichever I created a class, it is a user defined data. So it deals in the same concept. You can pass a variable in this form also. So you can have a parameters or a need not be. We also see another concept called as a default in the next example. So in this case, we can see three names are existing for the same class. So these three belongs to the constructor. One without a parameter, one with different parameter list, and You can see it, even I can use a pointers or reference values also. So how I'm going to execute this, how I'm going to invoke this. So basically I can, when I call any integer without any parameters, it is going to invoke this particular constructor one. In this case, it is going to invoke here, and whenever I'm passing a same object of a integer kind of, then i3 values, i3 dot m and i3 dot n is going to be the same as your i2 values, same as 25 and 55. I hope it is clear for you. Okay, so we will go for the next concept. So you can define, yes, any doubt?
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, can you go back to one slide, please?
Yes, the example.
Yes, ma'am.
Tell me.
Ma'am, here in the definition of third constructor, integer ampersand m, how
Okay.
if I want to declare it like integer I, like I'm not using ampersand.
Okay.
So will there be?
Integer I will not work. No, integer you are sending a copy of that. This is called as a copy constructor. That means I'm passing a reference here. Okay. We are passing an object of this memory. Okay. And with the ampersand is always for the pointer kind of. Yeah. What is your doubt?
My doubt was like, for example, in in normal way,
Okay.
for example, if I want to pass a pointer,
Okay.
so I can directly declare it like int star a, and I can pass on the value of pointer.
Right, you have to declare the pointer in your main function, correct? You have to pass the object here, correct? You in this constructor, I am passing a integer's reference value.
Okay. No, but ma'am, how it is different when I remove the ampersand?
When you can't you mean to say you are sending a integer value in this case, a kind of, then it is
No, ma'am.
not a your memory allocation will be different there. In this case, though I'm the integer I to whatever the content of this will be copied to this, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
But in this case, if I remove this, I may not have this that reference. Here it is a memory, it is addressed by the memory, right?
Okay.
I'm passing a memory. If you don't, if you remove that, then it is not a memory. It is just a data type for me.
Okay.
Did you get? It is same
Yes.
as writing in text, correct? I can
Yes.
write just in text here. Then I'm just sending another object, another data memory reference. I'm not referring to the same content here. Here I'm referring to the content of that. I'm not the, it is a memory address I'm passing here. That is what I have to convey there. So I can construct the integer, sorry, your constructor in a different form. I have to give a different signature to that. That is what I want to convey here. So you can also do that, but that time the whatever you're sending, the operation of that will be different here. Memory is not, it is not pointing the same object here. That's it. Is it fine?
Yes,
Clear?
ma'am.
Yeah. You're sending the object as an integer class, okay, but you are not sending the memory of that, okay, address point of that. That's it. Clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now let us go with the default argument. What is this default argument? You have seen a different constructor. You have seen a different way of executing a constructor. But if I don't pass a parameter, can I assign a default values to that? Yes, you can do that. So we call this as a default arguments, and it is same as your function overloading, same as your function kind of. Now in this case, I have taken one more example, complex. So you have two values, two data type, basically real, and both are float kind of, real and imaginary. And what is this? There is no parameter. Observe this. There is no parameter list. So I'm initializing a real and imaginary to the 0 value. So I'm trying to reset or clear the content and making as a 0 and 0 for it. And there is a constructor here. Okay, why we call this as a constructor? It is same as a class. Okay, so I have a class. Okay, I have written a constructor here, complex. I have two variables, two parameters. float R, it's a variable name, but observe here. In a previous example, we have just written float I, okay, another variable. But here, I'm initializing this to 0, 0 while declaring itself. That means if I don't pass this particular information, it will be initialized to, by default, it is going to initialize to 0. So we call this concept as a default arguments, okay. That means if I don't pass the value of I, then it will be setting it to 0. Okay. Now what is this? It's a one more public this one. Okay, one function where you're showing the content of that. Okay. So there is one more function called as a your complex add, and I try to use a two method of function calling. One is this is inline. It is there within your class, and what about the complex add you are trying to represent, that is in a, this is we are using a scope resolution. Okay. So what is returning? Return type is again the object of a complex. So it belongs to the class complex because I've defined the scope resolution, and this class name is, sorry, function name is add, and I'm passing a variable called as a complex, which is of the type complex. I can define any variable, no issues here. Okay. So what exactly it is done? Whatever the object, its real part is being added with the whatever you send the real part, and whatever the imaginary part of that is being added with the newly sent the information. So it is returning the addition part and returning as a complex variable, as simple as that. But let us see how it is going to invoke it here. In the first place, this is a constructor. Remember, complex, it's a class, and it will be called by two parameters, 1.5 and 6.4. So what will be invoked here? So your real and imaginary values are set to this value. Okay. Now observe this complex C2. I have not called this. There is no one more parameters to this. And remember, I don't have another call signature having only one parameter. Okay. So I don't have, either I have without any parameter, I have two parameter constructor. That's all. Okay. So what happens, though I don't have a signature similar to the only one parameter, it is called as a default value. So what happens to C2? C2 will be real part is assigned as 2.2 and imaginary is 0, because we defined in a previously here, if we pass the values, it will be that particular information, otherwise it is default value is 0. Okay. So that is called as a default constructor. Now what happens to this? I have not passed any values here. Okay. See, observe this way of calling. So though it is, we are not passed any values here, it is going to execute the without the parameter. That means real and imaginary parts are going to be assigned as a 0. Why? Because it is going to call this particular signature. Okay. So it is going to execute this part where both of them are going to be initialized to 0. Then here it is very simple. This particular object I'm calling by the C3 is an object of a complex. Okay. So it is initialized to 0, 0. Now what happens to here? Observe this C1. It is an object of a complex. You are calling this with the add. So adding with the, you're passing an object of a C2. So it will invoke here this particular information. So temp, in this case, temp is nothing but a C1. Why? Because you have created a temporary variable, which is nothing but it is a already its information. Temp is, you have just created an object of that, doesn't have any values. So it is a 0, 0. But what happens to this real here? How it will, which value will be taken, whether it is a C2 is nothing but you pass that particular complex, but this real, how it will identify, because it is the object through which it is being invoked. C1 real is taken and C2 real is being added, and it is being saved in the newly created temp variable. Okay. So it is being it is added, these two values are being added and it is being restored back. It is sent as a C3. It is a complex, is a return type. So the C3 will contain now addition of these two values. I hope it is clear for you. So in this next part, you are just displaying the content of a C1 and C2 and a C3. Is it clear for you? So in this case, we showed you how to create a parameterized constructor, how to call a default constructor, and how to work with your constructor kind of addition or any scope resolution of the information. I hope it is clear for you. Any doubt you can ask. Is it clear? Default constructor. So same as your function, this is also used in a function also, default function kind of. So default values, it is basically to initialize your values, the previous values. You can, while creating an object itself, you can create or set the values of an object. Any doubt you can always ask. Hope it is clear. Okay, so just to recap, so we have seen what is a constructor. It is same as a function, but the name of that function should be same as a class. Okay, so we have seen a parameterized constructor and we have seen a default constructor. So this parameter multiple in a same class, I can have a multiple constructor. We call this concept as a overloading. Now how it will identify that? While creating a your constructor, by defining a different signature, that means parameterization kind of, I can have a different multiple constructor. We call this as a overloading. Okay, I hope it is clear for you. Okay, now let us go with the destructor. So constructor is nothing but I'm creating an object while creating when I declaring a class with its same name. So I call this as a constructor. So what is this destructor? Obviously, I want to destructor is nothing but it is trying to remove the memory. Constructor means I'm creating a memory. Okay, I'm allocating a memory. So destructor, obviously, it is going to release the memory. Okay, so we'll see how we can use this destructor. Okay, now why I require a destructor? So if you see, observe this, when I create many multiple objects and I'm not using, okay, so usually when the program gets long or very complex, you creating so many objects, so the memory is allocated for you. So you want to free up the memory and reuse that memory allocation. So destructor is nothing but releasing it. It's a kind of releasing the object when it is not required, kind of. Okay, so destruct is a function. It is also automatically called each time when object is destroyed. We'll see how it is. An object is destroyed when it gets out of scope. Okay, the rules for creating a destructor is similar to the constructor. Okay, so it has got a function prototype. It should be same as your class name, but we'll see how it is different from a constructor. Okay, as with the constructor, you must give a destructor function same name as its class. Okay, so class name should be same. Okay, this when to say it's a destructor, when you write a destructor, your name should be same as that class name. But how you identify it's a destructor? This I'll tell you, and it cannot give a return type, obviously. Okay, you're destructing that memory, so it can't have a return type for that. But this is very important. What is this? You require to attach the constructor and a destructor. How to differentiate? Constructor name also and destructor name is going to be the same as the class, but in a destructor we will be using this tilde. Okay, this kind of information to prior to your name of that destructor. So this is going to say it is you're destructing the object, the memory allocation for that. Okay, so and this is also very important. Only one destructor can exist for each class. Okay, in case of constructor, I can have multiple constructors, but in case of destructor, I should have only one destructor for each class. Remember this. Okay, so let us see the syntax of this. So I've taken a same class name. Okay, so this is how you have to define here. Class name is any kind of your class information. So it is this particular. Remember, this particular symbol is very important for us. So before this particular class name, this is same as if you just remove this is going to be the constructor for us. Okay, so by adding this, it becomes a destructor. So the compiler will make a distinguish only by seeing this particular tilde. We call this as tilde. So before that name, you should have attached this tilde. Okay, so we call this as a destructor. So how are you going to write the class name, the your class information, scope resolution, and write a tilde on this. Then you write whatever you want to, other memory you want to release here. Okay, so you may be having many data types, you want to release that. You can do that. Okay, so now let us take some programs on this. So what is done? Remember, class. The class name is test class. So what is this? Remember, see this. There is no return type, and it is same as the class name. So this is going to be the constructor for us. Okay. So you written something here. Okay. Any kind of code you can write here. Now compare this particular code with this particular instruction. So what is the difference? The tilde is going to be the different here. The moment you add this tilde, it's going to be a destructor for you. So you are created a constructor also. You have written a what to be done when it is constructed. This particular class is created, and you have written what to be done when the particular destruction or destructor is being called. Okay. So you are incrementing and decrementing here and trying to show that. Okay, this is how you can create any kind of information. Now let us go for, we'll see why we require, how we can make use of this destructor. Okay, when we go for array constructor with a dynamic operation. What do you mean by dynamic here? Dynamic is nothing but to the runtime. Okay, you are not initially you are not assigned particular, say I want to create array of that. I'm already know that okay, 10 set of values required for me. Then I call this as a known values. But what happens, I can make write a program. I'm trying to take an input from the user. Okay, so when I take a user, I'm not defined, I don't know. Yes, any doubt? Please unmute. Sorry, mute yourself. Hello, any doubt do you have? Sahil, do you have any doubt? Sahil, mute yourself. Okay, so we'll go for our concept which we are dealing with. So I was discussing about the destructor and all that. Sahil, mute yourself. So now let us go for a dynamic construction. Now when we are saying trying to take an input from the user, okay, so in that case, we don't know the prior to your when you run that execution, while executing your program only you'll come to know how many memory has to be allocated. So because we are depending on a user input. In that case, we call this as a dynamic constructions, and this constructor and destructor will be more useful when we go for a dynamic way of memory. Okay, construction your objects. So let us take one example on that. So in this case, you observe here, it is a vector. Okay, so I have created a pointer to. Okay, this is an integer type of pointer, and there is a size. Okay, this is also integer type. So what is this vector? Same name is repeated, so it is going to be the constructor for us. So whatever you pass to this, it is going to assign to this particular data types, and you are trying to see this particular memory. This is a pointer for us. So I'm going to initialize. Okay, I'm going to initialize these many objects, these many integer type. Okay, I'm going to create. So this is called as dynamically allocating the memory. So initially I'm not aware of how much size, what is the size of the array, but I can allocate while creating the object vector. Okay, so when you are destructing, what you can write, I want to delete all the the allocated information. So I can say delete V. That means the reference is being removed. Okay, I'm releasing the memory here. So then you can write a void. You can, this is nothing but you're reading the data depending on a size. You are entering each the user information, whatever they enter, you're taking into this array. Okay, so this is a read function. Another is just the sum of that. It is one example where you are adding all the vector values and giving a, showing the, here it is a sum of that. You're printing that. Okay, as simple as that. Now let us see how I can invoke that. Okay, so I created a, this is a main. In that main, how many from the user we are taking the count. Okay, so I'm initializing this vector. Remember, vector is a class and this object is being initialized by the count. So I'm creating a object of a vector with this count as a one variable, one data type. Another is a array of that, array of V, because I'm creating that many array size, integer size. Okay, so I'm dynamically creating that many information here. Okay, so then in the read, it will be invoking, it will take from the user all the data, and in show sum, I'm just displaying the content of that object. Okay, whatever the content of array is being summed and it is being displayed here. I hope it is clear here. So what happens when it is scope is not there, you're trying to remove, you're going to call this vector. It is automatically called, okay, vector. Whenever you come out of that program, the scope is not there. So then it will delete the, this particular, release the memory for this. Okay, so that is how a constructor, a parameterized constructor, even the dynamically you can allocate the memory depending on the user requirement. Okay, we'll see more on this dynamic memory allocation. So what is this? Another concept will go, then we'll go with our the array construction. Say it is a copy constructor. What do you mean by copy constructor? As I dealt earlier, the constructor, when defining a constructor, I'm passing the reference of that object, same class. Okay, so we call this as a copy constructor. Why copy? Because I'm sending an address of this particular object, so I can manipulate, I can copy the content of, I'm sending a copy of that actually. Okay, address is nothing but representation where it is allocated, the memory is allocated, I'm sending the address of that, so I can manipulate, it is a copy of that same information. So this concept is known as copy constructor. It is a constructor, but see the signature. Signature is same as the object what you have passed with its one object to integer. So the address of that being passed here and it can be manipulated here. Okay, that is what the copy constructor. So with the same example, okay, here I have added a vector, same as the previous example. We created a one vector here, but in this case, I'm passing the object of vector itself, the class itself. So this is known as copy constructor. Okay. So, but though I have two vector constructors, observe this destructor. Why? Because as you know already, there should be only one destructor for each class. You can't have a multiple destructor. That is not, it will, compiler will give you an error in this, but you can have a multiple constructors. Okay, so this allocation, you are trying to release this particular information. So similar to the previous example, I'm setting the information, I'm showing the information. So this is called as a copy constructor here. So what is done in this case? This is a function. Why? Which function belongs to the class vector, and you're setting the information, you're showing the information. But what is important here is this. Okay. So what you're doing in the copy constructor. Okay. So in a previous one, vector, whatever this belongs to the class vector. And this is also, it is a similar to the member function. Remember, constructor is same as a member function, but a class name, it is same as the class name. But I'm passing the object of that. Okay. So I can refer any memory content of this V2. That is very important. So I can make any manipulation depending on my requirement. I can, in this case, I'm copying the same. So I created the copy constructor here. So what is done in this case? So previously the vector, in this case vector v1, so 5 values are 5 array elements are taken. In this case also 5 elements are taken. So I'm setting the values of that. And why this is allowed? Because you have written in a copy, object of this has been put into here. Okay, so I'm trying to equalize here, and whatever the content of v1, I'm going to put into the v2. Okay, now copy constructor is again invoked by the vector v2. So this is again v1 is copied to v2 and v2 is copied to v3. So when you do this, you can see all the values will be same. Okay, so this is how the memory is being passed. Okay, so you can manipulate also, you can also use it to copy the content basically. Okay, copy is nothing but same information, correct? So copy constructor is being used in this particular example. I hope it is clear for you. Is it clear? Any doubt? Is it fine? Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. If you have any question, you can ask. Otherwise, we'll go with another concept, dynamic memory allocation. Basically, it is on the vectors, array and pointers. Okay. So, as we told in the previous example, this concept is very important for us. What is this? Whenever I create an object, I'll be data type. These many representation memory is allocated separately for this, but there is only one copy of function is there in this case. Okay, so this concept should be very clear to you. Okay, so with this we'll go for the array creation. When I create an array of the object, how it is going to be changed. Okay, now let us take a array of object. So you already come across with the array of integer, array of float or something. So there is only one object is a complex representation, correct? So in this case, I am trying to relate a array of object. I'll take an example of employee. Remember, employee has 3 data type. One is name, age and department. So when I create an object, array kind of representation, so I will be creating one whole. Okay, this together is going to be the one object memory allocation. Okay, so remember this concept. So whenever I'm creating 10 objects, 10 representation for these memory will be allocated. This concept should be clear to you. Okay, so this is being tried to represent here. So when I create an employee having 3 data types, say for example this object, okay, it is not a simple primary data type, it is a user defined data, so which consists of 3 categories. So when I create one object, one set of information is allocated. So in this case, if I take the object name as lecturer, then 3 is, that means 3 times this particular information is repeated. This is how the memory is allocated for an array. I hope it is clear. So when I call a lecturer 0, then I'm pointing to this particular memory. Okay, when I call the lecturer 1, this particular information, this group is going to be used. Okay, so this is how the data type is being used. Okay, when I create an array, this concept should be clear to you. Now let us take a simple example. So again, I'm going with the employee kind of. I have 3 data type which are called as a primary data type because it is defined by the system. But what happens with this together, I'm making as a class. So this is called as when I create object of employee, it becomes a object defined class. Okay, object. Okay, so it is a user defined your variables. Okay, so When I create, this is get info, put info is very simple. You're trying to get the information, put the information. But what is important is here. So when I create, in earlier example, we just created one object, but I'm trying to create a multiple values. Okay, so again, I'm giving set 10. So when I create like this, the object name, the starting line, whatever, I can refer each object by lecturer 0, 1, 2 parameter values. But I have allocated these many data type into 10 values, because 10 set of these values are being allocated. So how I can access individual values? It is just by the your object name, because it's array for you. So you can use your square bracket to access them. It is same as your array, how you do it in integer array kind of, but this is an object for you. Okay, dot get info, then this particular function is being called. Now you in your mindset you should be clear that you have allocated 10 times of these data, whatever information, but the set, only one set of put info and get info is there. Okay, so that is how whenever you call a object array, this is how the memory is being allocated to that. Is it clear for you? So as many as I can create the array, but this representation should be clear to you. I can have a multiple. If I've created 10 elements, so I'll be repeating this particular information, but there is only one set of one copy of your function definition will be there. Okay, it is not repeated to each object. So this concept should be clear to you. Okay, this is how we create an object, array of object basically. Now what is this array of object? This is a pointer. Now we are coming with the, once the array is there, I am referencing, okay, I'm referencing a memory there. Okay, so I can use a pointer also. We'll see more on this. So to handle a group of object array kind of, we need not use a you can use a consecutive memory. I can have a more flexible way of that. We'll see this. Now what is the change in this? I can use a pointer to this particular representation. I'm creating, in this case, if I just omit this star, then I will be using a consecutive memory location of 25 into this many whatever data type I have. But when the moment I create the star, I can have a pointers. Okay, this is a dynamic memory allocation. So this is where I'm using new operator. We will be using this new. Okay, and a delete operator for dynamic memory deallocation. So this is a concept where you require to know. So this is one same example. If you observe this, this initial part is same. It is a repetitive. Okay, so you have created three variable, name, age, and department, and you have a get info, put info. There is no change in this. But what is the change? This star. Okay, this star, in a previous case we have declared a lecturer of 10, then consecutive memory is allocated, but when I put a star on that, it is a pointer. Okay, now how I'm going to allocate? So what I'm trying to do it here, you observe lecturer I. So since it is initialized to 0, 0 is being put here. New employee, I'm creating an object of employee. I have not created any constructor. So defaultly I'll be using and allocating this three data type without any values in that. It's just allocated. Memory is allocated to that. Okay. Then the 0, observe this. Lecturer, the 0, because I am initializing that 0. So zeros, what is this? It is a pointer. It is not a, you are referencing this pointer and trying to take a get info of that. Okay, so it will be called here and it will take all the values and will be put into this particular place. Okay, what happens, if you are not placed this choice is y or something, until you do that it will be just repeating. Okay, so you are taking every time the choice and making a Yes or no. Okay, if you put a no or whatever, then you will be just coming out of that. When you say it yes, it will just enter here. When you go for, because counter is incremented here, so you are now pointing to the lecturer 1. Again, here object is created, but you are not initialized. That in initialization you are doing it in this particular, but here it is a pointer for us. So since you have declared them as a pointer, you are using this arrow, whatever this kind of information to get the values. Is it clear? It is same as your array, but in the array kind of you don't use a star. How it differs in the memory allocation? In the when you don't use a array, this star, so consecutive memory is allocated. But when you use this star, it is a address. Okay, it is going to retain that address. So I can use a dynamic memory allocation for that. Wherever it is available, I can make use of that. Is it clear? Bit confusing, I feel so, but just try to understand a pointer, array, as well as the referencing your dynamic memory allocation. Is it any question is there? Then I can take. Okay. So be careful in while using this pointers. Okay, so be careful there, and we. Okay. So with this, we'll come to the another concept, nothing but a friend function. Now, what is this friend? So as the name suggests, it is friendly. Okay, so you are giving authorization for the class, telling that this is a friend. They can use it. Okay, basically it is a encapsulation. That is nothing but you hide the, you have a privilege to hide the data in a C++. So you are trying to give another instruction to the compiler. Yes, this can access this particular information, friend. So the moment you make it as a friend, they can access particular object or members in that. Okay. So it is a keyword is you should not use this keyword in your defining any functions. So friend is a reserved one. So you can use it a syntax like this. This is a class. You have created a two set of information, private variables and public. You can write a function also, but you have added one. What is this keyword? Okay, and this is where return type, it can be any data type, whatever you want to write, and this function name. So what you're trying to say, the compiler, this particular function, okay, is a friend. Okay, whenever it is a friend of, we'll see that how it is being resolved here. But observe this information here. I have not written any scope resolution in previous member definition. If you remember, I used to write class name and 4 dots. Okay, that is a dots were there. We call this as a scope resolution. But in this case, I don't have any scope resolution. This function doesn't belongs to class. Okay, this particular class. But still, I'm saying that this is a friend. This particular function is a friend of this class by this keyword. Okay, so observe there is no scope resolution, but still I'm telling this particular function can access this particular class. Okay, so by this keyword friend. Otherwise it is same as your function, but scope resolution is not there. Okay, so we'll try to write see the one program on this. So in this place, it is a class num. Okay, so there is a some variable. When I'm not declared anywhere this data type, it is going to be the private data. In a public, I can set this integer. Okay, whatever value I can put. Now observe this. I have written one friend function and whatever it is going to add. Okay, but observe how I've written this function. I'm not written that this is going to belong to class. I have not written any scope resolution to this. So it is doing some addition in that. But how I'm going to call this function? Add. Let's see. So what I've done, I created object of number, that is num a comma b. Two objects are being created for this num, and I'm setting the values 100 and a 200 in this. Okay. Now when I do this, I'm trying to add these two, but observe there is no object created for this. I'm not using a dot add or something, b dot add. No, I'm not using any object reference to this. Okay, it is just the function. I'm calling a function. I'm passing some values to this. Okay, it depends on what I've created, the signature of a function. Okay, in this case, I'm passing the your what is that class variable, basically objects a and b here. I can have any kind of. I'm trying to add these content and I'm going to print. But the important difference, I'm not invoked this add by the class or class object variables. Okay, I'm not invoked dot reference is not there. And while creating your friend function, we are not written a class resolution or scope resolution, we call this. Okay, and we use this friend keyword. It's important. So I hope you try to make a distinctions in that. Is it clear? Any doubt in this? Is it clear for you? Okay. Now let us go one more concept, that is nothing but a friend class. We have seen a friend function. So but in a C++, you have one more concept called as a friend class. Okay. So what is this friend class? Friend class is nothing but you can access. I'll show you how to do that. So this is one class representation. You have declared one more class also. Okay. But you told, observe here, you told this friend, okay, is keyword and you attach to the class name. That means the class 2 has a one friend name as a 1. Okay. So that is how you're trying to say the compiler. Okay. Now how I can use this concept, we'll see that. Okay. Okay. Now in this case, there is a class called alpha. Okay, there is two data types, 1 and a 2. Okay, and in this case, I'm setting the data, whatever the value we have set. Now observe this, the friend, okay, this friend has one more, it is a friend of beta. That is what I'm trying to say here. Okay, so this alpha is also a friend of beta. That is what we are trying to say. Now what is the how the beta is? Beta has only one data. Remember, alpha has two data set, okay, data value, integer values, but the beta value is only one integer values. Okay, so you have written a public function which is setting the information here. Okay, so what is this? This is also one more public function. So you're passing a, observe here, you're passing a object of this class. Okay, so you're passing object of this and I can access this value. A is nothing but a function, which is a is nothing but object of another class, but I can access those private data. Why? Because you made this beta, whatever those are, friends. Okay, since it is a friendly, this one, though it is a written in a private data in area, but still this particular information can be accessed because it is a friendly class. That is very important to this. Okay, so now let us see what is written in a show. Okay, show is again you're trying to access, remember you are in a beta class, but you're trying to access the another class variables. Okay, so in the your show part, what you're trying to, you're displaying the content of that. That's all. Okay, so you're trying to call this particular function. Let's see how it has been invoked. You created an object of alpha, you created an object of beta. Remember, A has two values, data 1 and a data 2. So you're setting those two values. Okay, and B has only one value, so you're passing that particular information. Now what you're trying to do it here, see out alpha sum of data. What you're trying to do, you're calling a information. How you're calling? Through another class. Remember, you're calling through object of another class. So when I invoke this, I'm passing a object of this. Okay, total. Okay, this total is a function which is defined in B, which is nothing but a beta. I'm passing this A, but what I'm trying to access in that, I'm trying to access the object of this with all these values. Okay, though they are not written publicly, this data is not in public domain, still I can access because it is written as a friend here. That is very important. Okay, then in a show is nothing but I'm again accessing this value, I'm displaying the content. So what is important to remember, if you want to access any information, okay, of another class variable, okay, then you require to declare them as a friend. So the moment this keyword is attached to that, the object of another class can access the variables. It is so previously you have seen friend function, now you have seen a friend class. Is it clear? Fine. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So that is this pointer. It's very important. Okay. So you have seen at present now dynamic memory allocation with the same basically by the pointer and all those things. Then you have seen a friend function, friend class. Now let us see what is this pointer. This itself is a keyword for us. Okay. So this pointer is nothing but you're pointing to a particular object and you're telling I have to use this particular the object of that wherever you are in. Okay, that particular data type I have to use, or data information I have to use. Now when I have to use this, we'll see that. This is a class person. I have some particular variable, this array of character here, and age is there. Okay, now observe, this is a person. In this case, it is a constructor for me. So when I create a object person, whatever, I'm taking the name and its age. Okay, that is how the constructor is. Okay, so when I use this display here, I'm trying to display the content of that. Okay, but how it is being used here, this, what is this here? Okay, this is nothing but a, remember, it is a, what is this is a pointer for us. Okay, so what you're trying to say here, string copy, whatever is there, this is string copy is nothing but its name, whatever the name of that, whatever you are stored in that. Okay, you're trying to copy into the whatever this element. We'll see when I try to execute this. Okay, so this is nothing but you are trying to access that. This is, observe this, we are not using this dot. Okay, we can't use this dot, it's not an object, it is a pointer basically. Okay, so this is a pointer. I'm trying to assign a whatever you have sent to this particular, this is nothing but in that object, that particular, I'm trying to see that present information. It is a pointer basically. Okay, so that is how I'm trying to use it. Okay, so in this case, what is this? It is a, if you see this person, it's ampersand, it is nothing but your reference value. So you're trying to use a scope resolution and trying to see, we'll see that how we executed that. Okay, now let me see the execution of this. So what you try to do it, person P1, you pass the string values. Okay, it's a character array. So this is the age of that. Okay, so you created in 3 ways. So you pass it to P1, P2, P3 values. Now what you're trying to do it here, P1 dot greater. So I'm trying to access this P1 information. P1 I'm pass the object dot greater P2. I'm trying to access these two information. I'm passing object of P2. Now what is done here? P2 is taken as a, it's a ampersand. Ampersand is nothing but your pointer. It is nothing but you are passing a reference here. Okay, so I'm trying to say how I can get the information. Previously, if you remember, I created a complex, okay, complex integer, real and all that. Then I try to use a object to access that real values. Okay, in this case, I don't require, I can access that X is nothing but anyhow it's object of person, but I'm trying to compare with the age of that, of the age of what? Age of the whichever is object which I'm comparing. That means it is a P1 here. Okay, I'm trying to return if it is greater or less or whatever the things. Okay, else what you're trying to return here? If it is greater, you are returning this particular copy. Else, you are returning this. You can't just use just this here. You require to send a pointer because it is already in the your memory allocation representation. So you have to pass it as a, remember, return type should be the your person object. Okay, person ampersand, that is a address of that. So I'm passing as a address for this. Okay. So this is how I'm passing. So that is the object what I have got as a P here. Okay. So P will be taking a whichever is greater value, that particular object is stored in P. Okay. So you created P1, P2, P3, and depending on your comparison, whichever is greater, that particular information is stored as a person P. So how you are passing? This is an object. This particular information is an object for you, reference for you. Is it clear? So this is a nothing but another way of accessing your information, telling that I have to use the object, what type of object, and this is especially for the your memory referencing. It is a pointer. It is a, this is nothing but a pointer for you. Okay. I hope it is clear, bit confusing because it is dealing with your pointer and a memory location. So it is mainly used for your all accessing the information. We can see more program in the coming classes. Okay. So at present, if you see, just to recollect, we have done these many information. One is your constructor, parameterized constructor, and overloading of that, and a default argument. We have seen lot of things with the constructor. Then we dealt with the destructor, when to use that destructor. And you remember there is only one copy of one definition for a destructor. You can't have a multiple as case of constructor. Okay, so you can't have that. And constructor with the dynamic operation, where we have seen array creation of that, and we have seen a copy constructor, friend function, and even the friend class. Is it clear? Any doubt? Any doubt in this? Students?
No, ma'am.
Okay. So if you, 1 minute, you can ask if you have any doubt present. So otherwise we will be meeting again in the your next class. Okay. Student, is it fine? Is this phase is okay? Am I fast or slow, or I can any feedback you would like to give?
Ma'am, a little bit fast, ma'am.
Am I fast? Okay. Already fast. You want to become a slow. What is your feedback?
Yes, ma'am. Slow.
Okay. Oh, you have told me earlier. Okay, because what happens? We are seeing only the screen, right? I can't see any faces there. So usually in a class, we go by seeing their face and trying to make an understanding. Okay. You would like to repeat in the next? I'll try to repeat, recollect the information. Okay. If I'm the moment you are not following, you can always stop me. Okay, you can ask me some question. I can be slower. Okay, I'll try to reduce the speed. Okay, any other feedback you would like to give, students? Is it fine? Are you there?
Yes, ma'am. Everything is fine.
Everything is fine. Okay, fine. So as one feedback I got, that I have to be a bit slower. Maybe the slides are coming fast because I can't see your face there. That's the reason. Okay, I'll try to reduce my speed and I'll try to do that. Anytime if you're not following, you can always stop me. Okay, there is no this one. You can always remember to stop and ask the question. I will be there. Okay. Hope it is okay with your concept. If you are, I think the pointer and all that may be a bit difficulties, but you require to practice. And are you doing any? Are you practicing with the coding? You can download any freely available softwares like code books and all that, where you can start executing. Okay, because initial now it looks very simple. Okay, it looks like you know the concept, but as and when we go ahead, you will be having a complex informations. And as the sir also mentioned, we require to go ahead with the project also. Okay, we'll be doing a some kind of end of the year semester, we will be showing us some projects. Okay, a group of 4 or 5, you can be together and try to execute a program which consists of all these whatever we discussed. Okay, so all the concept of C++ should be there. That is what we are trying to see there, how best you absorbed all those concepts. Okay, so make sure you already made a group of that. And sir, we will be circulating any kind of Google form or any kind of form where you can upload your name and your project title. Okay, why? Because whole E and F, okay, together you should execute only one set of program. There should not be repetition of that concept. Okay, concept can, like, you should not have a same project repetitively. So we want you to make sure we get a many projects on that. Okay, individual or innovative kind of projects. Is it clear? Any doubts in that? We will be circulating that. So by that time you come up with your group members and try to make a collate and try to get ideas on that. Yeah, any doubt you can pose a question, else we can conclude this session.
No doubt.
Okay. Okay. If there is no doubts, then we will be meeting on the Saturday again at 2 o'clock, I think so, correct? 2 to 4, 2, 3:30. Yeah. We'll be meeting with the that class, and we will be discussing more with our next concept. Okay. So remember, all these, though these are, or you already have a repetition in your previous, you may be knowing, some of you may be knowing the concept, some may be having some doubts, or some are new to this concept, but try to write a simple program. The moment you write a program, then you'll encounter so many errors in that, correct? So by solving those errors, you will get a more better idea on your C++ concept. Okay, I hope you practice that. Okay, all the best. So we will be concluding this class, and we'll meet on Saturday. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you.